before the sun.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody had a good summer. Welcome to the Williamson County chapter of League of Women Voters. This is our first meeting in this session or this year. And this is a new meeting place for us. The Morton Center has graciously allowed us to have two meetings here this year. Our meeting in September and our meeting in November. And the rest of our meetings this year will be held at the main branch of the Williamson County Public Library in downtown Franklin on Columbia Avenue. So we're glad to see you all. I heard from some folks who were here as we were talking earlier. They signed up because they're members of the Morton Center, and they said, well, what is the League of Women Voters? So let me quickly tell you about the League of Women Voters. We're a nonpartisan, grassroots nonprofit dedicated to empowering everyone to fully participate in our democracy. And we have active leagues in all 50 states and more than 700 leagues across the country. We engage in advocacy, education, litigation, and organizing to protect every American's freedom to vote. We were founded in 1920. And the goals at founding were to help newly enfranchised women exercise their right to vote. And as some of you probably know, Tennessee had a huge impact on women getting the right to vote. Today, the League has expanded our vision of a more inclusive democracy where all Americans can see themselves represented in government. So that's kind of the background of our organization. Another thing that folks ask me about is we're here because we want to know what are good sources of information for upcoming elections, because there's a lot to weed through these days. So I'm going to recommend the Vote 411 app and site on that is a League of Women Voters site, and then also locally, Williamson Inc., our Chamber of Commerce, has a site, and they have a tab on their site. If you Google Williamson Inc., it'll come up, and there's a tab that says vote, what is it? Oh, I'm forgetting it right now. Oh, Election Central. And so on both of these sites, all candidates have had the opportunity to fill out a questionnaire on their positions. So if you don't see an answered questionnaire there, it's likely that either they haven't turned it in yet, or they chose not to fill it out. So those two places are good sources of information from the candidates themselves. Does anybody have another site to recommend? Anything else that you would recommend as a good site for information?
GoVoteTN is always useful if you have a question about which district you're in for so many, especially smaller races like school board.
Thank you. Yeah, Go Vote Tennessee. They have an award-winning app and site that can tell you all of those things: where you can vote, what district you're in for various races, how to renew your voting, and just a reminder that according to state law, some voting records do get purged if you don't follow up, if there's a question, if you're living at the same address. Those cards did go out, and you may want to just check your voter registration. I've checked mine, I'm there. I checked my son's, and he's not, so we're going to have a conversation. Just but those are some things that are really good resources as well. Today is also Constitution and Citizenship Day, and on this day in 1787, the Constitution was signed. And the theme for this year is one that we can all take to heart: e pluribus unum, out of many, one. I do have a couple of announcements about the local league. The first we've already talked about, the new locations for our meetings. We always meet on the third Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. We have a really exciting relationship going on with the three very wonderful young students at Williamson County Schools Entrepreneur and Innovation Center. They are currently producing social media spots for us, probably on apps that most of us aren't on, but they are producing content, approved content, and focusing on young voters and encouraging people to vote. So watch for those. We will cross-post some of them on apps that we all are on, but it's just really refreshing. Stacy, Cynthia, and I meet with them every Thursday morning at 7, so that's interesting. We're at Franklin High School at 7 in the morning, but we're very excited about this partnership. And then just a reminder that on October 6th, we are co-sponsoring a candidate forum for Franklin City Alderman candidates. It will be from 5:30 to 7 at the Columbia State Community College Williamson campus. And we're co-hosting with the Williamson County Association of Realtors, Williamson Inc., and the Williamson Herald. So, all of that out of the way. I want to introduce our guest today. First of all, we have Jennifer Mason here. She represents District 3 on the County Commission, and she served in that role since 2017. She graduated from Maryville College and received her JD from UT Knoxville. She is the Assistant District Attorney for the 21st Judicial District, specializing in crimes against children. And although she doesn't provide this in her bio, she is nationally recognized for her efforts in this area. She's received awards for her work, and we are so fortunate to have her in our community. Ms. Mason serves on the board, or is a member of a number of organizations, including the DAR, and she's a devoted Tennessee Vols fan. So Chaz Morton is a 5th generation Williamson County resident and attorney who was also a record-setting swimmer. His Stanford swim team won 2 NCAA championships, and he competed for a spot on the Olympic swim team. Mr. Morton, you didn't know that? Well, you need to come to more of our meetings, because you didn't know. Mr. Morton completed his JD at Vanderbilt and is a founding member of Greer, Newman, and Morton, PLLC. He also serves on the board or is a member of a number of organizations, including the New Rotary. So we thank you in advance for your service to our county, as well as your time enlightening us today about what's going on with the County Commission. And we are looking forward to our October program. Just so everyone knows, that will be at the Williamson County Public Library. Our speaker will be Emily Jenkins, who's a local Franklin resident and an attorney with the Tennessee Justice Center. So thank you all for being here, and a quick thank you for Angie Becker, who was coordinating all the logistics for this meeting today. So thank you all.
Excuse me, Chaz, which district do you represent?
I represent District 9.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'll try to use this. I'm not sure I'm very good with it, and Sheriff Jennifer will have to coordinate some means of passing this back and forth between 2 of us.
Can you hear me without it?
Yeah.
Can the video catch me with that, or do you need this for the video? Not really, okay.
Well, then I'll try to use this as best I can, and apologize for the echo that you'll hear. So yes, I represent District 9, and I'm here with Jennifer Mason. Jennifer's been on the County Commission a bit longer than I have. She was appointed in 2017.
That's right.
And I was elected in 2018. When I ran, and so I appreciate your mission, because my goal is running against an incumbent, and so our county commission is broken into 12 districts, 2 people in each district. So I wasn't pressured with having to win. I could finish second and still wind up with the same trophy. It's sort of the same way that Olympic swimming works. If you are first or second, you make an Olympic team, and if you don't, then you don't make an Olympic team. So in some ways, that's more challenging than actually going to the Olympics. People tell me I did not make an Olympic team. I was, however, I finished second in my district behind Matt Williams. He has beaten me twice now, by a combined total of, I think, 30 votes, and he reminds me of that every time. I said when I ran, though, that I didn't certainly run because you want to win, you want to serve. I wanted to find another vehicle to find a way to serve my community. But my true goal is making sure that we just turned out more people. I wanted more people to take part in local elections. We focus so much on national races. We think that, and you see that, but you're real difference. And the reason I serve, the reason I know Jennifer serves, is because we want to make a difference. And you can do that at a local level. In a way that I'm not positive you can always at a national level because it gets so drowned out with so many other things. So I absolutely love serving on the county commission. It's been my honor to do so for the last 2 terms. I look forward to running again next year and certainly look forward to the support of those in District 9 to the extent that many of you are from District 9. Excuse me. Jennifer, you want to add in your story?
Yeah. So, good afternoon. Thank you guys for having me here today. I like to share a little bit of my backstory because hopefully it'll encourage you or somebody you know to get involved. Whether it's running for office or just what you're doing here today is just getting involved. We just need people to be excited about elections, to encourage people to get out and vote, and to really think local. I mean, it's very true what Chaz says. The local elections are what affect you the most. You know, as county commissioners, we set your tax rate, right? Everybody wants to know about their tax rate. Well, that's done locally. You know, public libraries, parks, that's all done locally. So it's a really important role, and I will tell you, I never once imagined myself involved in politics. I was an economics major, and so politics was not my thing, but when I became an assistant district attorney, I worked in the courthouse, and I'm around the judges who are elected, the court clerk who's elected, the district attorney, the public defender who are all elected, and I somehow got just drawn into this community of public servants. And so in 2017, a friend of mine was actually the commissioner for District 3, and he came up to me, I'll never forget, we were at the Spring Hill Christmas Parade, and he told me that him and his family were moving, and that somebody would need to be appointed for a spot, and he asked me to consider it. And I looked at him, and I'm like, you're crazy. I'm not a politician. You have to know people, right? You have to have some swagger or money. That is not me. I said, I don't know why you're asking me to do this. And he goes, no, what we need locally are really good people who care about the community and want to make a difference. And I thought, well, so I thought on it. And I thought, you know, that sounds like me. I care. And I want to make a difference. And so I put my name in for the appointment. I was appointed to the position in 2017. I then had to run in 2018, won that election, and then won the next election. So I've actually been on the county commission now for 8 years.
Oh, I'm sorry, they told me they wanted me to turn it down.
Oh, turn it down. Oh, okay.
Not sure if I'm doing
They
this.
said that when I was talking. Turn it up now.
So it took me that long to come back here?
I'm just giving some feedback.
Oh,
It's
Okay,
correct.
that's fine, okay.
I'm good. He's the problem.
I didn't know if you were here.
So, now you interrupted my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
No, not you.
Spring over for spring.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, 8 years. So, yes, so I've been on the county commission for 8 years, and I really love it. I love giving back to the community. I love being involved. I love being a prosecutor, which also gets me involved in the community, and so I'm very invested in Williamson County. My husband works for the school system, so we are very much Williamson County public servant people. And so I really just want to encourage each of you, if you've ever thought about running for office, you don't have to have swagger or money or wealthy friends, you know, especially on the local level. Just do it. Get involved. You don't have to be this special person, which I always thought you had to be. You can be just a normal, regular person who cares. So I encourage each of you to get involved. And I know we're really excited to be here. Chaz called me, asked me if I wanted to help out, and I said, absolutely. Anytime we can get people excited about voting, especially we have the special election that early voting started today for the congressional seat. So that's exciting. Our races, every actually county race, except for judges. Yeah, judges are 8 years, DA and public defender. Everybody else, sheriff, mayor, except for the assessor, are up next year. So it's a big year for local elections, and so we really want you guys to have that on your radar and encourage people to get out, vote, educate themselves about the candidates.
All right, so further away. See, I don't know if it's being heard, but okay, I'll do better with all that. Y'all can hear me. So, piggybacking off Jennifer, we both love serving our community. Thought it might be best to just sort of, maybe give sort of an overview. Jennifer and I are on the county commission, so if you're not familiar with sort of how local government works, We've obviously got federal government, we've got state government, we have county government, that's where we serve. Inside of our county, we have 6 different cities that are each on their own, home rule, they make their own rules. So I live inside the city of Franklin, city limits. The city of Franklin is about to have its city elections for half of its alderman seats. So if there's anybody, does anyone live in Franklin? Then you have probably heard from, or will be hearing from, your candidates for those races. And they're elected in October. So the city falls off an off election cycle from our state and federal elections. Jennifer and I will be running next year in the county elections. It's really important that we always remember how, even though there are 6 municipalities inside the county, how closely those work together. And I've had experience over the last couple of years in working with our various municipalities to try to further the goals of everyone. And that can be a real challenge when you don't have a metropolitan style of government, which allows all of Davidson County to move as one. It's a balance, and it takes a lot of cooperation, a lot of communication. And I've just got to give so much credit to Rogers Anderson and to all of our city mayors for communicating with each other and really helping to lead us towards a path that's better for everyone. And sometimes that comes at losses for one or more communities. There are always challenges. But we'll talk about growth here a little bit. I attempted to, or at least AI assisted me in creating a PowerPoint. So if this goes awry at some point, or if it shows something different, that's my fault for using AI, but I didn't know how to make a PowerPoint, but I downloaded a couple of slides and it made one for me. So I'm going to try to use that today. And so first of all, this is just a map of our county. You can see the first mistake that I made. This is obviously a little taller and skinnier, so I need this filter for myself. But if you can imagine me the way that Williamson County is shown here, you'll see. And so we've got our county background here, and then our 6 municipalities are shown here. So we've got Spring Hill down at the bottom, that's where Jennifer is, and then Thompson Stations are yellow. Our light blue is Franklin, Brentwood's are brown, Nolensville is our green, and Fairview over here is kind of a purple. The importance of all 6 of those jurisdictions along the county moving together really dictates, somebody told me once that kind of every decision that's made ultimately can be controlled really through zoning. And that's a terribly dull thing to tell people because zoning sounds very dull. But one of the issues that everything that drives around, whether we're talking about schools or a jail or tax rates, goes around growth. Growth is driven by that zoning. And so what we have done was a couple years ago, I was asked to help chair or serve on the urban growth boundaries. You may or may not have followed what was going on with our urban growth boundaries. Like I said, we are the county. We are the white parts here. The colored areas you see are the various municipalities. And under state law, they're only allowed to grow within urban growth boundaries. This is an attempt to balance growth, which we need to occur because if you're not growing, you're dying, versus the wanting to protect rural areas. 8 years ago, we started sending out questionnaires to people, asking everybody in the county to give their input. What do you love about Williamson County? And overwhelmingly, we came back with what was called the town and country concept. People loved having the towns, the availability of services inside of cities, but people really wanted to protect that rural lifestyle. And so part of that was that we settled into our urban growth boundaries. County Commission, as its first part, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, introduced zoning in the county that said if you were not inside of the city, then you may only have 1 residential structure per 5 acres. This was an attempt to stop sprawl, which was what was starting to happen in our counties because of the way, throughout the county the way it was. That has concentrated growth into our cities. And so this map's useful because it sort of shows you where our cities are. Now what you may not be able to tell on this map, and I can go back one, is that most of our cities and that all that growth area is going to lie right there along the middle. That's I-65. So if you start thinking about planning, it makes sense to grow where you have infrastructure. If you've got the biggest road, it's easier to add on to that road. So we've tried to get a growth plan that does this. Fairview, you see over there, that's I-40 sneaks across that top side of it. If you've never been out to Fairview, I-40 runs out there. Not too far from Nolensville over there, you've got I-24. You can see that little blue sign there. Attempting to target growth into those areas, try to build where there's infrastructure. I live in the 9th district, and so I will tell you that previously, I live in West Haven, which is kind of right there on the very western edge of Franklin. Beyond that, right across the street from us is a wonderful resource called Gentry's Farm. The Gentry family's been here for a long, long time. Tremendous people. Jimmy Gentry coached my son. Gentry are fantastic. And people want to keep that farm there, and the Gentrys want to keep it that way. Franklin had that as part of their urban growth boundary originally. They had intended to grow north and west. Mac Hatcher was being finished. So that made sense. They had delayed growth, waiting for that road to come in. Mac Hatcher is now done in that quadrant. But the city of Franklin said this doesn't make sense for our growth anymore. With Mac Hatcher there, that's not going to help our traffic problems. Gravity also goes the other direction, so sewer doesn't make sense. You have to pump things. Franklin made the decision to grow south and east. Out 65, out 840, out Murfreesboro Road. So the city of Franklin dropped that from the urban growth boundary. That is now protected by the county. So areas that are white there will remain 1 home per 5 acres. That will keep it more rural. It won't stop all development, but it'll certainly slow it down. Let me let Sharon talk about that, because she's in a high growth area.
Yes, yes.
I just want to ask a quick question, because I think there's a couple of us. Are you gonna send this out afterwards, or to someone here so that they can share it?
Yes.
Yes, we can zoom in, okay,
Yes, we will.
thank you.
And by the way, I had nothing to do with this presentation. This is all in Chaz. I think you can tell by the title slide that a female did not have her hand. It got the point across. But he's done a great job, and I think serving on the commission for the urban growth boundary, Chaz did an excellent job, because not everyone was happy, as you can imagine. There were plenty of people who loved their urban country lifestyle that the cities wanted to move into, and vice versa. There were other people out in the country who want the city, but the city wasn't coming there. And so there were a lot of meetings. I would say there were tears, there were angry, there were shirts made, posters. I mean, people feel very strongly about their land and where they live. And so it's a constant balance of how do we grow responsibly, how do we grow and protect the people who live here, but not everybody wins in that argument. I remember when we went to the town and country plan, and we, in the unincorporated area, the white area on the map, we did it from 5 acres, or 1 house per 5 acres. Well, some people weren't happy about that because they had farmland that they wanted to sell for subdivisions. And so they felt like we were encroaching on their ability to be financially secure in retirement. But then you had somebody down the road who was thrilled about it because they didn't want a subdivision in their backyard. And so you're constantly battling, how do we preserve what's great about Williamson County, but still continue to grow? And so this was a huge project, and I think Chaz did such a wonderful job serving on this committee, because it was a lot, and people were very emotional, as you can imagine, about it. And so this kind of shows you where we're looking to grow, or where the cities are looking to grow. And it's important to note that you're governed by a lot of people. And it amazes me when I go out and talk to people in Spring Hill, for example. My district is completely within the city of Spring Hill. And I'll talk to them and tell them I'm their county commissioner, and they'll say, oh, I didn't know I had a county commissioner, I live in the city. Or, they'll say, what is a county commissioner? I say, well, basically we do budgets. Oh, so you can't fix the sewer system in the city of Spring Hill. I'm like, no, that's a city issue. And so it's just figuring out what's a city issue, what's a county issue. I remember when they built the amphitheater in Thompson Station. And so that was something that Thompson Station was involved in. It was within their property. I got so many calls as a county commissioner, and when I would tell people, I understand your frustration, let me help direct you to where your voice needs to be heard, they would get really frustrated at me. Well, you're not doing your job, you're not helping me, you're just passing the buck. And it's hard to hear that, because I'm by nature a helpful person, But I'm not the person you need to be talking to. I'll do everything I can to help direct you. And so sometimes it's just educating who does what. And so when you live in a city, like I do in Spring Hill, the BOMA, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in Spring Hill, control what goes on in Spring Hill. But that doesn't mean the county doesn't have our hand in there, because we do schools, right? We do Parks and Rec, but Police Department is the Spring Hill Police Department. Now, could the Williamson County Sheriff's Department come in? Sure, they have jurisdiction, they can assist, but they tend to let the cities handle their city business. So it's really interesting how we have this interworking relationship between the county and the cities or municipalities where you are. Yes.
Could y'all comment real briefly on the unincorporated towns, places like Triune, Arrington? Because obviously it's more than five acres per house there, and it's sort of what, and also I noticed like some places like Bethesda are not on the map.
So Chaz is the expert, so I don't wanna say anything wrong, but where you still see subdivisions in the unincorporated area, it's kinda like a puzzle. So building new ones, if they're gonna build 10 houses, I gotta do my math, they gotta have 50 acres. Now, they can have 50 acres and put all the houses boom, boom, boom right next to each other, but the in total subdivision.
So they have parkland, a pond, whatever.
Correct. And so that's why you're still seeing houses close together, but the subdivision itself meets that. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. And then the red places, those are the hamlets. Am I correct in that? Which is such a cute term. I love it.
So, fairy tale.
So there are rules and regulations for the hamlets as well, but here, that's your area.
So, in talking about how we're gonna grow, the cities have themselves covered. We do have these areas though. One of my, part of District 9 is Leapers Fork. And if you haven't been out to Leapers Fork, I still think of it as Hillsborough. But Leapers Fork is a tremendous jump for our county. Grassland, the same thing. Tremendous place in our county. Not inside any city, but there is a nucleus there. There's a community that is distinct and unique. And so the county, through its planning office, manages those areas and has targeted those areas as areas for potential growth that will be an exception to those rules of 1 per 5 acres. We want to have small commercial areas there. The most recent one you've seen, College Grove. Triune is the one that's really become a focal area. It is at the intersection of Nolensville Road and I-840. It is a perfect place for development to occur from the basis of infrastructure. Sewer needs to be built, but it is a logical place for it to occur. And so it is targeted as an area that will ultimately hold some commercial, retail, higher density housing in that area, and again, defined by those boundaries. It is also limited with, as the cities are, as to where it can grow. Yes?
Chaz, I'm sorry. The facilitator of this meeting forgot to say that we are allotting 15 minutes at the end of your presentation for questions. So
Sorry.
if y'all want to, no, I just thought about it. I neglected to say that. So if y'all want to continue, and when you get done, we'll ask you.
We'll certainly take questions at the end, and then happy to answer anything before or after the meeting. That flowed very well, though, I think, into kind of where we were. From the hands back to you, we can figure out what.
Sure. What's our next slide there?
Well, so the next one, I had roads on there,
Ooh,
which sort of tied into.
Traffic.
I
Traffic.
take it back, that was schools.
Oh, schools, okay, I can talk about schools. Yeah, so every school except for the Franklin Special School District, that's a public school, is managed by the Williamson County School Board. Everybody has a representative. So of the 12 county commission districts, there are also school board districts. We mirror each other. So District 3 for county commission is the same for District 3 school board. But whereas we have 2 people per district, the school board has 1. And they run, so that makes it a total of 12 of them. 6 will run next year with us, and then 6 will run in 2 years. So they don't all run at the same time, so they don't have a complete turnover. So there's also 6 school boards up for election next year. I've heard Roger say this, and I think it's true. We owe a lot of success to Williamson County because of the thought that went into planning our schools years ago. At some point, the county commission sat down and said, we want to prioritize schools. And that's what they did, and I think you can see the result in that. People move here for these schools. We continually have national merit scholars. We continually have blue ribbon schools, continue to have just exceptional students that excel in academics, related arts, athletics, I mean, great, great school systems. But that's also where the majority of our money goes. You know, so you wanna talk about money, when you talk about budget, is, go back, you just had it. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see 62%, roughly, of our budget is school related. So when people talk about taxes, where does our money go? Schools. But again, schools are what drive people here, schools are what drive our property value, and so schools are very important, because I hear people say, well, I don't have kids in school, why should I pay as many taxes as my neighbor? Well, because that drives the value of your property. Chaz is actually the chair of budget this year. So,
Please find our sympathies.
it's a big job. So I'll let Chaz talk a little bit more about the budget. We passed our largest budget year to date back in June. We changed it to June. But we're growing. You know, we have a lot of expenses. We have debt, and we can get into that and talk to that at some point as well. But we do. We have roughly 0.86%, not quite a percent of our debt to our total assets in the county. So we have about $1 billion in debt, but we have about $100 billion in assets. So debt's never a good word, especially when you have a B on it. Completely understand that, but it is 1% of our overall total asset ratio. But that's what pays for our parks and recs, so it pays for our schools, law enforcement. It covers the services that we enjoy here in Williamson County.
So, yeah, shifting away from schools and talking a little bit about budget, I am honored to get to chair the budget committee this year. It's amazing. When I first ran for county commission, somebody told me go to the budget meetings because everything has to pass through that, almost everything. Anything that touches money runs through our budget committee. So if you want to know what's going on in the county, the budget meetings are an excellent way to do it. A couple of years ago, maybe just last year, we now record our budget meetings as well. Our county commission meetings are recorded. You're able to view those. You are now also able to view the budget meetings. I believe there's a rule coming forward that may put other committees on there as well. But budget committee, like I said, everything passes through. It's certainly the things that affect your tax dollars. As you'll see here, yes, 62% of our operating budget goes towards operations of schools. If you include school included debt, and we'll talk about debt here in just a moment, or I will, Jeff, in a little bit. It gets closer to 70% of our budget. We have built this county, and I've been here for almost my entire life. Fifth generation, my children are 6. I hope that they will be here, and I'd love for 7, 8, and 9 to come along. All that to say, we built this county on jobs and schools, and it has been a very successful formula. And we intend to continue with that. Our schools are beginning to present an interesting challenge because of something that I showed you a little while ago, which is where the county is growing. Right now, we've got 29 elementary schools, 1 K through 8, 11 middle schools, and 11 high schools. Significant number of those built in the last 20 years. We've done that through bond issuance because those are capital assets those schools are going to stay around. Our school population continued to grow and has finally leveled off a bit at about 41,000 students. I think 41 is what Tracy said.
Yeah, that seems about right. We finally have hit where we're holding steady for the most part. For a long time, it was every year. For a long time, it was every year we were seeing this great amount of growth and we were having to build schools. I felt like every time we turned around, we were building a school. We haven't built a school. I think Amanda North was the last one, and that was 2 or 3 years ago. So we leveled off a little bit, but like Chaz is saying, the schools that we do have, they're hitting that 20-year mark. And what do you need at 20 years? New roof, new HVAC. And so again, maintaining all of these schools, and that's why the schools are such a big part of our budget.
So one of the things that we're seeing though is that, and Jason Gold and his staff watch years in advance as to what's going on demographically so that we can try to plan for schools, because you can't suddenly just build a school in 2 days. We have to acquire land, we have to go through plans, sometimes we have to coordinate with cities, we can build inside cities, and most importantly, we'd like to build those schools near where people are. Started about 15 years ago, we had, starting 40 years ago, Saturn came. Saturn showed us a boom in the south part of Williamson County. Spring Hill's continued to grow. We built schools moving more towards the south, anticipating growth. And then what happened the last 15 years, last 10 years particularly, is we suddenly had a very large amount of growth over there in that yellow area of Nolensville. And so you'll see, when you look at kind of where schools were populated, this is all of our schools listed on here. The green ones are elementary schools, the middle schools are in pink, the high schools are in blue. But you see that concentration starting to move more and more to the north and east. Now that's not necessarily where people are, we've still got schools. Again, my district represents Grassland. Grassland is a community because it's in the county, it's not in the city, it's not growing as fast. Grassland Middle School now has more seats than students. We've been overcrowded in some areas, less crowded in some. We're not necessarily going to need to build more schools right now. We've stabilized the population. But at some point, the school board, and it will be their decision first, may need to look at resorting where students are coming from so they're not driving. For instance, my community of West Haven, closest school to us is Franklin High School. But we go to Independence. And we do that because 10 years ago when that decision was made, it moved the fewest cars, the fewest number of miles. West Haven moved more, but overall the county moved. There's been a swirling action that sort of occurred as far as how the cities have grown and where the county's gone. I chaired with the district a couple of years ago. So before 2020, you were in a district, some of you may have been moved. My District 9 shifted from a lot of this western side of the county out towards Fairview, and now is a much more narrow area. District 1, which is Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Hayes, that district has grown in geographic size to keep proportionality. Each district has to have roughly the same number of voters or citizens, and so each one has about 20,000 based on that redistricting. All that to say, things are always moving around, and it's exciting, but our staff does such a good job of planning around that. We've talked about schools, we've talked about school debt.
Throw something out there. Just real quick, we're always planning for the future, but we don't have a crystal ball. We know we're gonna grow, we're trying to do the best we can to anticipate where that growth is gonna be. We've had several studies done. The last one that I recall, they expect our population to double to 500,000. We're right around 260 now. And so how do we plan for putting another 200,000 plus people in this county? What do we do about roads? What do we do about schools? And so we're constantly looking to the future, not only maintaining what we have, but growing. And so growth is double-edged sword, right? People move here because they love what we have here. But by moving here, they compress what we're able to do unless we continue to think ahead. And so that's a challenge. I think it's really hard. You know, do we buy property now for a school we think we may need in 5 or 10 years, or do we wait? You know, does the land value go up? Does the land value go down? So we're constantly having those conversations, and so just know that things don't happen in this vacuum. I hear a lot of people go, well, where was the planning for, widening 31 in Spring Hill, right? I don't know if you had gone back 40 years ago and asked people living in Spring Hill, the small population, hey, do you anticipate having a population of almost 40,000 people? They would have laughed at you. And so that's the challenge we're always up against, is how do we do this that makes sense economically, makes sense for the future, but preserve also what we have.
About 5 more minutes.
I was just looking, trying to figure out things I was probably going to skip. I do want to bring attention on the subject of roads, on the subject of infrastructure, because this is something that's not before our county commission. We are always seeking new sources of revenue, most efficient sources of revenue. That includes tourism. Tourism is a tremendous, the best dollars we can get. They come in, they spend it. They use our roads a little bit, but they don't attend our schools. They don't tax our facilities. Tourism is wonderful, and our Bureau of Economic Development does a fantastic job. Our Visitors Bureau, I think our average savings per household based on tourism in 2023 was $1,635. Every household save that in taxes because of tourism dollars that come here. They do a tremendous amount of work on that. Our Chamber of Commerce works with them down to details of talking about sporting events. They can tell you that if they've got a soccer tournament in town, depending on if they're more boys teams or girls teams, how we'll get more money. The girls teams come, they travel, they shop. The boys come in, they sit in the hotel room, they eat a little bit of fast food. So all for women's sport, all the reasons, plus it helps bring us in more tax dollars. It is absolutely wonderful the job they do. Second thing that we started doing, I can't say enough great things about Beth Lollers. If you don't know Beth Lollers, go meet Beth Lollers. She was mayor of Nolensville. She served on the county commission. I was devastated when she decided not to run. I was sure that our county would be at a loss. But Beth Lollers, being Beth Lollers, found a way to replace herself in a way that was even more valuable. She is our grant writer. And Beth Lollers has brought in $7.5 million through her application for grants for this county. That coupled with other things has saved us $10 million through federal and state grants. We use those grants for a number of things. We use them to improve our employees. We just used them recently to improve a couple of our parks. We use them for schools. We use them for roads. The issue that's coming up and what I would encourage you to contact your state legislators about, we're always trying to figure out how to get more revenue in. And it's always a tricky balance trying to find the right thing, something that makes sense, that has a nexus to the problem. We have, our state delegation has sponsored a bill. It's made it through the Senate committees that is asking that a recording tax, and you probably don't remember this, but when you bought your house, one of the things that was somewhere on that settlement statement was something called a recording tax. And so the state of Tennessee, because we don't have income tax, we have a sales tax on most everything, including a house. And so if you buy a house, 37 cents for every $100 you spend on that house is collected. This is a state formula. The proposal before the legislature now is that half of that money come back to the county so that the county can spend it on things. Now that's a great approximation because if there's turnover in housing, that means that people are moving in, people are moving out, people are building homes. As homes get more expensive because it's a linear tax, it means that we'll collect more money than a county that has less expensive homes. And it happens when the person comes in, it is not a recurring tax. We're hoping that that will pass. Mayor Anderson has pledged, and I hope the county commission will support the dedication of half of those funds, should they come back to the counties and legislation pass, that those monies be reserved for infrastructure, particularly roads. In looking at how roads are built right now, the state and the feds are giving priority to communities that already have set aside funds. If you put in your, if you've got matching, if you've got money in there as well, then they will prioritize your project. When you go to the state house and you listen to 94 other counties and you tell them Williamson County's problems, you get a lot of crickets. This will be a means for us to be able to get those because we do need expansion on Columbia Avenue, we need expansion on I-65, and then county roads inside of it.
And to add on to that, when we talk about revenue streams, you know, how are we getting money, right? We all know we have property taxes, but we get part of the sales tax. We also get a hotel motel tax, which we're maxed at. Sales tax, we're maxed at. I'm sure there are some creative ways. One thing that comes up every once in a while is a wheel tax. You know, we all pay to register our cars. Do we pay more to do that? Is that another way to collect more? There's been a lot of talk lately about eliminating property tax. Not so much here locally, but you know, in a national conversation, which I'm following. I think it's pretty interesting because I'm like, okay, that's a big source of revenue. If we eliminate property tax, where's that money coming from? Because running a county is like running a business or a household. You have to have money coming in to spend it. So we can't just go, well, we're gonna do away with this certain tax and still have the same amenities, the same service that you've come to expect here in Williamson County. And one thing I'll touch on real quickly, we're building a new jail because of growth. You know, our jail is 30 years old, 20 to 30 years old. It is not equipped for today. We need a new jail. And so with growth comes these problems, these buildings that we need to build. And so just keep that in mind when you think about, well, why am I paying taxes? Where are my taxes going? They're going for everything. Almost everything that you see in this county is coming, to the lawns being mowed out in the public roadways, to your libraries, to your rec centers. And again, I mean, that's why people love Williamson County, because we have these services.
I know we're at 1:45 mark, so I don't know if this is the time to begin opening up for questions or.
So if you have a question, now's the time to ask it.
On any of those topics or off of them, I had a couple things I didn't talk about. If it's something off this, it's not on the slides, I'm gonna defer to Jennifer.
Let's, one parameter that I would like for us to adhere to is if you ask one question, let's give other people a turn and then go back if there aren't any additional questions. So,
So you mentioned that Williamson County could get part of the recording fee tax.
This is a proposal before the legislature.
So where's it all going now? Or is it an increased recording fee?
Right now it's the same thing, just the state has it, the state collects all of it, and it then decides how it wants to allocate. So when you look at our budget numbers, let's see, I've got a source of funds there. So you'll see, we raise locally through property taxes and sales taxes about $630 million. We get about $196 million from the state. Some of that is allocated through sales tax, some of that comes through those recording taxes that the state collects.
So it gives you more control over how it's spent.
We're asking for more local control.
Yes, how much does the healthcare infrastructure need to grow to accommodate that huge population increase?
Jennifer came and said, somebody's asked a question about hospital stuff.
That's a really great question. Right now, as you all know, we do have the Williamson County Medical Center. It's a great facility. It does carry some debt, which the county is responsible for. It was $200 million, it may be $150 million, something like that. But the hospital's in great financial shape, but as you guys have probably heard, they are exploring options whether or not to consider selling or not. A lot of pros and cons, right? The Williamson County Medical Center is our second largest county employer behind the schools. And so we like being in a locally owned and operated hospital that we have control over. If it is sold, I'm gonna put this out here because I hear it all the time, well, let's sell the hospital and pay off debt. It's a great idea in theory, but since we created the hospital under a charter that has to do with rural health care at the time, if we sell the hospital, we can only use that money for medical services. So we can't use it to pay off debt. Now how that would look, I don't know entirely, but it would be used towards health services here in Williamson County. But how we grow and operate, there's a lot of private industry that wants to come in here, that are looking at maybe interested in buying the hospital. I don't know, there's talks about building a hospital in Spring Hill. And so that I think is gonna be driven by the private market. The county, our involvement in healthcare is the Williamson County Hospital and those affiliations. If, other than that, as far as I know, we're not looking at growing outside of the Williamson County Hospital that we already have. I hope that kind of answered your question.
I've lived here 40 years and I've been talking about selling that hospital.
And it comes up, it does, every couple of years we get the conversation, usually around election. I think you're gonna hear it next year, well, we could sell the hospital and pay for debt, we could sell the hospital and pay for debt, and it's just not an accurate statement. We can sell the hospital, but we can't use it to pay for debt.
I'm not one of those people on next door who's going bananas about growth in Franklin, but you're talking.
Okay, we are.
Yeah, but you're talking about doubling the population. You said you have to grow or you die. I'm not growing, but I'm not dead yet. When is enough enough?
Absolutely. Having been here for my whole life, and my family have been here. We've been echoing that longer than we've been talking about selling the hospital. Change is different. Biology tells you if you're not growing, then you are in a processing time, doesn't mean you're dead, but you are declining slowly. I'm doing it now. Hopefully not in that way.
I can feel his heart just beating.
Having balanced growth, it is a challenge. It absolutely is. We are twice the size that we were 20 years ago. We have doubled. The means that we grow to that size, you don't want to become the land. Certainly not. And don't intend to. Again, we have protected in a great way through zoning the ability to keep rural spaces. Will the market then tell us, we're not going to cram into these denser spaces inside the cities? They may. We're starting to see that a little bit. I talked a little bit about schools and how we're going to need to possibly reconfigure. A stat that we are now seeing is that our elementary schools, we've got a decrease. Last year's drop was we didn't bring in as many kindergartners this year as we graduated seniors last year. First time that's happened. And that's because young families, because of market forces, can't afford to live here. And so families are making strategic decisions, waiting to move to Williamson County until they get to middle school or high school where they can afford it and get a bigger bang for their buck, essentially, in a home purchase. I don't know what 400,000 to 500,000 people in this county looks like. That terrifies me as well. So,
The quality of life.
yeah. I didn't know what 270 looked like, and that's where we sit today. There are challenges. There's really, my running joke is, it's terrible, it's probably shouldn't be a time-told joke. If you're, on this decision of, growing versus not growing, I come down on the side of the road because everybody likes PF Chang's. And I didn't have PF Chang's when I was growing up because we weren't big enough to have one. There are benefits that come with it, but we have to be very cautious with the growth. The plan that we put in place with the urban growth boundaries and county zoning did the best job that we knew how to then. Can we absolutely refine one of the great things that came out of our new urban growth boundaries was a constant revisiting of those boundaries. Before we had to go through this process to do it. Now they're required to meet at least quarterly. And every 5 years we'll come back and look at it again so we can make growth as beneficial as possible, maybe less painful.
And just to add on, the county can control the unincorporated county. We don't control what the city does. So again, it's that partnership. The county's saying 1 house per 5 acres, but what the city of Franklin does, what the city of Spring Hill does, that's outside of our control. And that's one of the things that I think people don't understand with us as county commissioners. We don't control everything in the county. We control the unincorporated, the non-city part. And so if Franklin, for example, wants to put in a multi-use apartment complex and bring in 10,000 people, we don't have the ability to stop that. But we still have to build the school for it. And so it's that partnership of getting everybody to understand how we want to grow. Growth is coming, but how do we control it? Yes, Joe.
Hi, yeah, so just on that growth question, when you all plan for that growth with the cities and the county, how does an everyday citizen, so you said they participated in the meetings and all of that, so Gentry was saved, but maybe some of the other parts weren't. And so it sounds like you all had a discussion regarding that. But as people, as voters, how do we feel like we can have an influence on the commission if we are not a corporation or we are not a part of a group? What do you all find is the most effective way to influence and so you all can make those decisions? And then in regards to revenue and growth, I know there's been discussion about AFT in the unincorporated areas in order to get more money from developers that are putting in buildings that this county could be getting more money.
Good question, good point about impact fees. And again, the cities, the county, we have impact fees based on development that we attempt to use.
But those could be increased, and I think you all have not decided to increase those.
We, from the county side, we have maxed out on revenue there for residential. We have not maxed
For the
commercial.
businesses, right, commercial.
Which comes to the part of the question that ties back a little bit to the traffic question as well. Like I said, we built this county on schools and jobs and schools. When you talk about we don't want to grow, everybody always wants to grow jobs. And so the important thing, and I thought this was, and it's completely out of order because I added it at the last minute. This is from our Chamber of Commerce, and you guys look at it. This is traffic patterns. This is a couple of years old. And we see a blue line, that's people leaving Williamson County going out, and green lines for people coming into Williamson County.
Is that to work for Charles? Okay.
Yes.
Like daily.
Daily commutes. So when I was a student at Vanderbilt, and when I was living in Nashville, coming to Franklin for work after school, and I was going completely against traffic. Because I come in the morning and everybody from Franklin was going to Nashville for work. Well, what happens, and this shows it, there are now more people that come from Nashville to Williamson County to work than people from Williamson County that go to Nashville to work. And that's true for every community around us. So one of the questions that we have, and again, of course, to care, as we continue to grow and be a good economy, we still have the lowest unemployment rate in the state. These people are going to come to Williamson County to work. They're still going to drive further. Now, they will not use our school resources, but on our roads, which is the big question, they're coming. They're coming. They're either coming from outside into us and going back, or we try to go shorter distances. Again, if we put people in more compact distances, have them closer to work, hopefully that works in traffic. But we absolutely need to build more roads. We've got to do something about our traffic problems. These are the tools we've used. But just simply saying, if we stop building residential units, now workers still coming, and those workers are driving from somewhere else, and they're still going on roads. Because the traffic's what I hear a lot about, and I certainly understand it. I will applaud the city of Franklin. So I live in West Area, about 4.5 miles from my office. Multimodal paths that connect the city of Franklin allow me to ride a bike to work, which is wonderful. Clearly not doing it enough, but I can and do so. And I love it. It's fantastic.
We just got a big grant that Beth did for multimodal paths.
Yeah, we have those in the counties, and then what we're trying to do there is connect neighborhoods to schools and neighborhoods and schools to parks. And Beth is doing a fantastic job of working on those to try to connect those. Again, trying to make more communities so we don't have to be in our cars all the time, and lessen those traffic impacts that we have because we are growing at this breakneck speed that we think is starting to slow down a little bit.
So, I have one question, maybe this could be the last question maybe. So you both kind of have a reputation for independent thought on the council and for doing your homework. So what guides you during these times?
Okay, so Chaz and I had this conversation when he was running in 2018 and I was running, and both of us are lawyers. We both are litigators, so we're not afraid to speak our mind. We're not afraid of public speaking. We're just not afraid to engage in conflict. No, peaceful conflict, hopefully, but have a discussion, maybe an uncomfortable discussion. And I think you will echo this. We both ran on the platform of, I want to run and do what is in the best interest of my community, even if it means that I'm not gonna win my next election. We don't do this to be politicians. We don't do this to get reelected. And there's several meetings afterwards we've kind of debriefed and said, well, I don't know how that's gonna land me, but again, I'm not making decisions to get reelected. I'm making the hard decisions that I think need to be made for the betterment of our community. And I think that's a different mindset. If you're running to be reelected, then your comments or your votes may reflect the parties or individuals you want to appease to get reelected versus what you think is absolutely the right thing to do. So that's what guides me when I'm up there, and sometimes I just can't help it and I just hit the buzzer, like I have to say this. What do you think, Chaz?
I would echo all of those things, and one of the things that attracted me to this seat, to this race, and I think drew John as well. Whenever everybody says you're in politics, I say no, I'm not. And I'm not, because this is absolutely, I still believe this. County government is the absolute last level that it is service for its politics. And we can say politics involved, and obviously it has to be politics. It is truly service. It really is. When I talk to people, when I talk to my constituents, people want the same things. There's not a drawing on one side of an aisle or another. We want a safe community. We want parks. We want good schools. We want the same, because we all live here. And so it is. It is service for us and not politics. And it's wonderful to be able to do that. And Rogers has recently announced that he's not running for county mayor. And my concern was that, oh my gosh, and he said exactly what I would say in the situation, which is, I'm gonna continue to serve, it's just gonna be in a different vehicle. And I was doing that before I ran for this office. At some point, I would be out of this office, and I would continue to serve this community. It's like Jennifer, I absolutely love it. And the wonderful thing is, there's so many different ways to do it. This is the season of my life to do it in that seat with those 23 other county commissioners, and it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you for your interest in it, and listening to us, me, Jennifer, talk today. Thank you so much for having us, and I'll be happy to answer any questions when everybody else gets to leave.